really in a condition to take a look at it either. And what's really nice about talking to refugees is the way that they're able to transport back to those defining moments, to those experiences, to the day that they were ethnically cleansed, is kind of a world into brilliance and sadness all at the same time. And I've learned more from refugees than I think I have from reading any book. And until my grandmother's dying day, everything was Yafa, Yafa, Yafa. It was always about return. When my grandparents were kicked out to Beirut, to Lebanon, they never felt at home. When she came to the States, she never felt at home. And you know, there's the famous saying, the old will die, the young will forget. And it hasn't happened. And one of the main reasons it hasn't happened is because the Nakba didn't end in 1948. The dispossession of the Palestinian people didn't end in 1948 or 1967. It continues today. And so when people say we live in in America, we live in a post-racism society, it's so laughable because the remnants, as well as the continuation of racism, systematic racism from hundreds of years ago that have continued down the line, still persist. And so often you'll hear, well, why don't the Palestinians just get over it? You know, because you're bombing refugee camps from places the installations you're bombing, you're literally bombing from where they used to live. Especially for a lot of the refugees living in Gaza. So this is called Yafa. Yafa is a big theme throughout my book because my mother's side's from Yafa. So this is called Yafa for my Tetalani. She no longer recognizes my face. Never will again, but can still smell her oranges. Feel the sun kiss her face as if on her balcony in Yafa 61 years later. Described like the most magnificent villa. Must have been 7 stories tall, spanned half the neighborhood. Tree branches opened like arms so chunks could witness its beauty. I visited the house with my brother. Israeli cab driver said he'd never heard of the street. Palestinian presence must have made his memory fail. My grandmother was a painter, mostly landscapes. Now she can only describe them. Words like poetry, thoughts like scholars. No matter how much I read and write, I always feel like a student in the presence of refugees. My grandmother's stories returned like Haifa's waves. The outside world may never mention their names, but the roots of olive trees will never forget what happened. So I've done that poem, I think, 3 or 4 times, and I always say, like, oh, I'm not a book reader, like, and it's not because I'm cool, like, because I memorize everything. It's because I literally can't read from a book. So I actually ended up memorizing that while I was reading it from the page, so luckily I didn't have to look back at that. So I'm going to read a few of the 3-line poems and then get into some of the other stuff. And it's really an honor to be a poet. You know, to be able to tour around, to be able to, I teach a lot of workshops, to be able to connect with the youth. I taught a workshop at UWO, and luckily we got 3 high school students to come out to the workshop, and 2 of them weren't active on Palestine. And you know, I think one kid, he liked the workshop, and then there was a mock checkpoint the next day, and he was like, oh, well, that was cool, and that was really cool. And then there was a show the next night, and I think it really reeled him in, you know, because I'm part of a generation where parents say, you know, keep your head down and keep moving and go be an engineer and go be a doctor. And we tried, and, you know, revolution, you know, it didn't really go our way. And we had Nasserism and we had Pan-Arabism, and we got screwed. So just go and assimilate and get on. And what Egypt and Tunisia and now Bahrain and Morocco and Libya and Iraq and Iran and throughout the Middle East and in Palestine is shattering that paradigm, that notion that we can't come together and make a difference. And not in a cliche Barack Obama type of way, but in a real people's movement, Tunisia, Egypt type of way. So it's really nice to see, and there's a South African here. Where'd you go? Oh, you're from South Africa? Okay. You know, I was talking with a friend who's a prominent journalist and anti-apartheid activist, and he said, you know, If you asked me on the fall of the eve of apartheid, if we thought that apartheid was going to fall the next day, we would have laughed in your face. And it always seems so much further away than it is. And I don't want to downplay how hard of an uphill battle it is and how hard we have to go and how much coalition building we need to do and how much work in our society that we need to do, but things can really move forward. And so it's not just this, romantic past where we talk to some people who did it way back when. It's something that we can be a part of today. And I know in the US, the idea of protest, the idea of action is vilified and looked so down upon, and the way that organizers in Wisconsin were looked at when they were just trying to fight for their rights. And that's just the bare surface. I mean, there's so many more things that we need to be doing, and it's just, you can rock the boat. Even though Harper's like, no, you can't. Yeah, you can, Harper. You're a dumbass. Okay. You ever hear anybody say, hey, if the Palestinian people could only be like Gandhi and Martin Luther King, they would have like some of that freedom stuff or whatever that's about. Those people are idiots. So it's like, okay, comedians are like really funny, and it's like, oh, and I was thinking about this for 3 years, and actors are like, I lost 180 pounds to get into this role and like went to like the Adirondacks and like, no. Me, it's like, I'm a poet and you say something stupid to me, one line, and then I go write a poem about you. So, but sometimes I do it in advance. In this case, it was Bono. And Bono says a lot of dumb shit. Like, he's like, oh, let me just say some dumb stuff today. And it's like, you would think like, 30 years later, you'd be focused on making good music again. And it's like, hey, the streets have a name and it says you're wrong. Why don't you shut up? Beautiful day. Peace out. So this is called, dummy. So, I mean, one of the reasons why I'm not a fan of, oh, you should be more like Gandhi, like Martin, it's a slap in the face to 6 decades of nonviolent resistance in Palestine and beyond that. It's a slap in the face to every single person that has ever been shot at with a tear gas canister, has been shot at with a bullet, a rubber bullet, has been put in jail, has had a family member end up in a graveyard because of Israel's brutal policies, and it's just so condescending and orientalist. So I wrote this poem. Love you, Bono. Peace. Dummy. Doesn't he own like part of Forbes magazine too? Like, shut up. I feel better if you listen. I don't know if Palestine just hurts more than it used to, but I try not to think of the kids in Dahesha anymore. Great memories tucked under pillowcases, more nightmares brought by morning, blink images of live-fired unarmed protesters, cameras spill out footage of screaming mothers, born, bred, dead in the West Bank, fought like Gandhi, like Martin, but no history book will remember their plight. No one ever told me it would be this hard, impossible to look away after first glance. I cringe every time someone sends me more photos, dead babies, missing foreheads and frontal lobes, policemen lay still, lined up like dominoes, punctured chests where organs once functioned, half a face missing in this one, an arm missing in that one. It looks like the bomb beat his little body into the ground. Read reviews of our art, movies, and music. We're so angry, one-sided, never fair and balanced. What about Schindler's List? The Pianist, Life is Beautiful, and every other Oscar-worthy winning movie. I never looked at Jewish pain as something to conquer, never forgetting that monsters once lived under the skin of German men. We should be more like Gandhi, like Martin, like someone else. Pretentious armchair activists who obsess over Monica Lewinsky and Barack Obama's dog choice. If we all just rose up at once, like First Intifadas, people in the West forget about. Wannabe feminists, peace activists, and pluralists, swallow tongues and gouge out eyes, wouldn't live this life for 5 minutes, but are too quick to criticize the way we live it, while a million Iraqi throats are slit. Reporters sit in air-conditioned newsrooms praising General Petraeus. Don't dare ask Iraqi clouds what they've witnessed. It's quite a view from the ground, outside the green zone. The fallacy put forth is that if we were only better, we would be free today. We should be better than people that happen to be Israeli, happen to be Jewish, because better is not racial, ethnic, or religious, but situational. So for that, yes, we are better than you. We should be more like Gandhi, like Martin, and you should be more like F.W. de Klerk, like Afrikaners admitting colonialism and white supremacy in South Africa. Funny that we always blame the victims and never asked the needed question, when is the day going to come when Israelis and other colonizers of the world better themselves?
Yeah.
Don't be fooled by the seemingly thin nature of this book. There's a lot of stuff in here. I have no idea how long you guys want me to perform for, but I got a 6-hour flight tonight, so I can go till 2 in the morning. What? Okay. I used to be a pragmatist. That was dumb. As a teacher, you're like, don't use adjectives. Show me. What does big mean? What does the word big mean? You want to show me? I'm just like, you're dumb. You're stupid. You're a D-bag. Okay. So, it's the one part Jersey Shore. It's like sprinkled in there. You're like, why don't you wear t-shirts that fit you? And I'm like, I don't know. I was a large child and went to the gym too much when I got older. But this one actually fits me. I love this t-shirt, Breakfast of Champions. I got this. I came to Canada and got like the dopest t-shirts ever. I got this long sleeve from McMaster, and it was liberation all the way down. And so it was liberation all the way down, and then it was like Libya, Iraq, Bahrain, Egypt, all that. And it was really cool, and it was a long sleeve too. And it was cold out, so I was appreciative of that. I won't put the mic near it. I don't want to get shouty though. Oh, all he does is shout at me. So I'm gonna at least give you some tender moments. No, Delilah, love songs after dark. No. I was a failed actor. 8:30 is early in the morning. Maybe they shouldn't put auditions then. Maybe I'd still be on All My Children. I was background. I was in the airport. I was like the best guy with a travel bag. And I was like, yeah, okay, put me on the show. That didn't work out. So this is called A Letter. I used to be pragmatic. And you think oh, we should talk. And you know what? Some people are like, well, why BDS? And why not this? And why not that? And it's because it's the most effective way forward, right? You're not just doing it. You're not just like, I feel like engaging in BDS because it's Tuesday and that's what we do on Tuesdays. There are a lot of people, we call these people Palestinian civil society, who have thought through the different options of what can the international community do to stand in solidarity with their plight. And like the South African model, except this one's institutional and every model is different. It's great and it's working and it's effective. And Israel's scared shitless because they just want us to keep talking, and they don't want us to be acting, and they don't want us to be doing, getting labor unions involved, and they don't want us to be getting academic unions involved, and they don't want us to be doing de-shelving campaigns, because when you put pressure on people who are doing bad things, it helps change their mind, and that's why I like BDS, and so I used to talk a lot with people. And then I realized that our most needed commodity, our most useful commodity, is our time. We are out-resourced in every other way. So what can we do to be effective? And that's why I'm on the U.S. campaign for the academic and cultural boycott of Israel. How can I use my voice as an artist? Just like people did with canceling soccer matches during apartheid South Africa. Just like people did with, just general academic cultural boycott and divestment. So, this is called A Letter, and it's kind of a response to a lot of people that I used to have fluffy conversations with and stopped talking to me after they're like, you're so angry. I was like, shut up. And I have a new line in a poem, and it's like, I'll do this poem too, but it's like, we're politicized just so they can ignore us, right? What is political? There's nothing political about Egypt. There's nothing political by saying we want to end occupation, apartheid, we want the right to return to our homelands as any other population would be granted, and we want equality. Imagine if you said we should really hug the segregation out of the system. We should really, there's a reason why a lot of the youth